Welcome to the deep dive. We've received some really interesting materials from you, our listeners, focusing on the Yumka Dechen Gyalmo practice.
Yes, fascinating stuff.
It might be a new area for some, so we've really, dug into these sources to try and understand its core.
Absolutely. We've pulled together the key information to hopefully give a clear picture of this Tibetan Buddhist practice, particularly how it's presented by the Padmasambhava Buddhist Center.
Right.
It's what's called a Dakini practice, specifically from the Longchen Nyingtik tradition, and it centers on Yeshe Tsogyal.
Okay, Dakini practice. That sounds like a good place to start.
Right.
So who exactly is Yeshe Tsogyal, and what does engaging in a Dakini practice around her actually involve?
Well, Yeshe Tsogyal is a really central figure in Tibetan Buddhism. She's revered as the main consort of Guru Padmasambhava. So when we talk about Yumka Dechen Gyalmo as a Dakini practice, we're talking about connecting with her as the embodiment of wisdom. She's called the Queen of Great Bliss.
Queen of Great Bliss.
Yeah, and that's not just, feeling good. It really points to a profound spiritual awakening, this boundless creative energy that comes from that state.
I see.
So the practice is really about tapping into that enlightened feminine energy.
Queen of Great Bliss. That really paints a picture.
The sources also bring up the three kayas in relation to her. Could you unpack that a bit? What does that signify?
Sure. Thinking about the three kayas here gives a pretty powerful framework, actually. You have the ultimate reality, the Dharmaka kaya, which is seen as Samantapadri.
Okay.
Then that manifests as radiant energy, the Sambhoga kaya, like Vajravarahi.
Right.
And then it becomes accessible, in the world through an enlightened human form, the Nirmanakaya, which is Yeshe Tsogyal in Tibet.
Ah, okay.
So it's really a beautiful way of showing how that deep wisdom becomes, tangible for us.
And this is where it gets really specific, historically speaking. This practice, it has a definite origin point, doesn't it? A moment it sort of appeared.
Exactly, yes. The sources are clear that Yumka Dechen Gyalmo came about as a terma.
Yes, a revealed treasure. Discovered by the great pretend, the treasure revealer, Jigme Lingpa. This was back in 1773 at a place called Draki Yangzong.
Wow, okay, 1773.
And from there, it became a really significant part of the Longchen Nyingtik cycle. That's a central, very deep set of teachings within the Nyingma school, the oldest tradition of Tibetan Buddhism.
So a wisdom tradition, discovered, then woven into a specific lineage. What's the main goal then for someone engaging with this? What's the intended shift?
The core aim is really to make a direct connection with that enlightened feminine energy of Yeshe Tsogyal. Her wisdom, her boundless compassion, and the methods, visualization, chanting mantras, making offerings, they're all geared towards cultivating that great bliss within oneself, which is seen as a catalyst, really, for deeper wisdom and, ultimately liberation from suffering.
Now, you mentioned the Padmasambhava Buddhist Center and the materials you shared link back to them. They seem pretty central to how this practice is accessed today. Tell us a bit more about PBC.
All right. PBC, the Padmasambhava Buddhist Center, it's a Nyingma Buddhist organization. Their main center, Padma Samye Ling, or PSL, is up in the Catskill Mountains in New York.
Okay.
It was founded by two very highly respected teachers, Khenpo Tsewang Dongyal Rinpoche and Khenpo Tsewang Dongyal Rinpoche. And yeah, they've become really instrumental in bringing these profound teachings to, a much wider audience in the modern world.
And that connects directly to the webcasts mentioned in the sources, right? These regular online events focusing on Yumka Dechen Gyalmo.
Exactly. Then, Khenpo Tsewang Dongyal Rinpoche leads these. The material pointed out one, for instance, on June 2nd, 2024. What's really significant here, I think, is the inclusivity. These are live streams open to basically anyone, anywhere. It kind of democratizes access to a practice that historically would have been much more geographically restricted.
That really does show how these ancient traditions are adapting, reaching people globally. It sounds like PBC's mission goes beyond just this one practice, though.
Oh, definitely. Their broader focus is on core Buddhist principles, meditation, of course, and the very profound Dakshang teachings, sometimes called the Great Perfection.
Right.
And their use of webcasts for so many things really highlights their commitment to making sacred practices available remotely, bridging those distances.
Okay, now let's switch gears slightly to a key ritual within the Yumka Dechen Gyalmo practice, the Tsok. It comes up a lot in the material. For someone completely new to this, what is a Tsok?
A Tsok, right. It's sometimes called Gana Chakra, too. It's a ritual feast offering, and it's, well, absolutely fundamental in many Vajrayana practices, Yumka Dechen Gyalmo included.
A ritual feast.
Okay. Yeah, think of it as a really meaningful communal gathering. It's centered around making offerings and sharing a spiritual intention together.
Meaningful communal gathering. That helps frame it. So
Right.
what actually happens during a Tsok? What does it involve?
Well, participants bring offerings, usually food and drink, that's common, but also things like flowers, incense, music, sometimes even symbolic dance movements. And these offerings aren't just random. They're directed towards the deities like Yeshe Tsogyal, towards the lineage gurus, and also shared within the community of practitioners who are there.
And the purpose behind this sharing and offering, it feels like more than just, a potluck.
Oh, absolutely. Much more. The Tsok is seen as a really powerful way to accumulate merit.
Merit. Like positive energy.
Exactly. Positive spiritual potential, you could say. And also for purifying obstacles, things that might be clouding our minds or holding back our spiritual progress.
Okay, merit and purification.
And it's also a celebration of our interconnectedness and the sort of inherent joy that can be found in the spiritual path itself. Ultimately, you're invoking blessings from the enlightened beings, from the lineage, to support your journey towards enlightenment.
So this sacred potluck, as you put it earlier, perhaps,
Yeah,
it's actively building something spiritual and clearing things away.
precisely. Building merit, clearing obstacles, it's a very dynamic process.
So how is it actually done? What are the key components?
Well, visualization is huge. Participants mentally offer, well, everything imaginable. Beautiful sights, sounds, smells, tastes to Yeshe Tsogyal and her mandala.
Mandala, the sacred diagram.
That's right, representing her enlightened universe, essentially. And this mental offering goes hand in hand with physically sharing the actual items brought, the food, the drink, amongst everyone present.
I see.
And then there's usually a lot of chanting, mantras, specific prayers. The material mentioned Jigme Lingpa's concise Tsok liturgy being used often.
And you said this is particularly important within the Yumka Dechen Gyalmo practice itself.
Very much so. The Tsok really deepens that focus on great bliss, which
Yeah.
is so central to Yumka Dechen Gyalmo.
Oh.
Plus, the communal aspect fosters harmony, connection between practitioners. The whole ritual becomes this powerful way to connect directly with Yeshe Tsogyal, the wisdom Dakini, and with that whole lineage of teachers stretching back centuries.
Let's dive a bit deeper into the Yumka Dechen Gyalmo practice itself then. What are some of the core elements someone engaging with it would focus on? What might they find particularly maybe insightful?
Okay, well, a fundamental part is the visualization. Picturing Yeshe Tsogyal in her form as Dechen Gyalmo, the Queen of Great Bliss.
Right.
She's typically visualized as red, wearing symbolic ornaments, standing alone, just radiating this immense power and wisdom.
That sounds very vivid.
It is. And interestingly, the visualization often includes a mandala within her own body, containing both peaceful and wrathful deities. This is understood to connect very deeply to the Bardo state.
The Bardo, the state between death and rebirth.
Exactly. So there's a profound link there.
That's a very rich image to work with. What about sound and like mental focus?
Mantra recitation is absolutely vital. Specific mantras are chanted to invoke Yeshe Tsogyal's wisdom, her energy, and to help cultivate that direct experience of bliss. And meditation is key too. Practitioners often focus on cultivating progressive states of blissful awareness, sometimes called the four joys. These are like markers of deepening meditative experience.
Four joys.
Yeah, and the practice can also involve more advanced techniques, often called completion stage practices. These work more directly with the subtle energies, the channels and winds within the body and mind, aiming for the deepest levels of realization.
The sources also really stress the need for empowerment. What does that mean here?
Right, empowerment, or wang in Tibetan. In Vajrayana Buddhism, this is crucial. It's a formal transmission
A transmission of what?
of spiritual energy, blessings, and crucially, the authorization needed to genuinely engage in a specific tantric practice like Yumka Dechen Gyalmo.
So you needed to practice properly.
It's considered essential, yes. To receive it from a qualified teacher, like Khenpo Tsewang Rinpoche mentioned in the materials, is seen as necessary to practice effectively and safely. And that empowerment also creates this direct energetic link connecting the practitioner to the whole unbroken lineage of the practice, right back to Padmasambhava and Jigme.
It sounds like there are also potential benefits beyond just the inner transformation, things that might manifest outwardly.
According to the tradition, yes. Engaging deeply with Yumka Dechen Gyalmo is said to support various enlightened activities.
Like what?
Things like increasing intelligence or promoting longevity, also helping to clear away obstacles or negative circumstances in one's life.
Interesting.
There's also a connection made with the 21 Taras, different expressions of enlightened feminine energy, which practitioners might connect with for help with a whole range of goals, both spiritual and, well, worldly.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together, why does a practice like Yumka Dechen Gyalmo and others similar to it, why do they matter? What's their significance maybe for us today?
Well, on the personal level, it offers a really profound path for spiritual growth. It's about cultivating deep compassion, wisdom, and connecting with, well, what's often called the feminine aspect of enlightenment, that intuitive, nurturing kind of wisdom. And particularly through the lens of Dzogchen, which is often associated with this lineage, it offers a very direct path to understanding the non-dual nature of reality, which leads ultimately to liberation from the cycles of suffering.
And it's clearly not just an individual thing, is it?
Yeah.
The emphasis on the sock really points to a strong community aspect.
Exactly right. The sock brings people together. There's a spirit of joyful celebration, shared purpose. It beautifully reflects the kind of inherent beauty and creativity of life itself, which is a big theme in these tantric paths.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that the spiritual path doesn't have to be just solitary or somber. It can be really joyful and deeply connected to our shared experience.
And thinking about today's world, what makes a practice like this still relevant, especially with groups like PBC making it more accessible?
Well, the accessibility through things like webcasts is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It really shows how ancient wisdom can adapt and stay alive and relevant now, reaching people who maybe wouldn't have had any access before.
True.
And beyond that, the core message cultivating peace, love, compassion, which is central to this practice and PBC's mission, well, you could argue that's needed now more than ever, couldn't you, in our often quite turbulent world?
That's a very strong point. This has been a really illuminating deep dive into Yumka Dechen Gyalmo. Just to recap briefly, we looked at its roots with Yeshe Tsogyal, the importance of the sock as this joyful communal offering, and how the Padmasambhava Buddhist Center is playing a key role in making it accessible today.
Indeed. It's clearly a very rich, multi-layered practice. It honors that feminine principle of wisdom and offers a powerful way towards spiritual awakening. And the sock really stands out, doesn't it, as this vibrant expression of community, of the joy found on the path. And the webcasts just underscore how these traditions can endure and adapt.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How exploring practices like this with such deep roots might offer us really fresh ways of looking at our own inner wisdom and our connections with each other, especially now in this fast-paced, sometimes disconnected world.
That's a really important takeaway, I think. And for listeners who are intrigued and maybe want to learn more, the Padmasambhava Buddhist Center's website is definitely the place to go for webcast schedules and other activities.
Right.
And the Chiso Dharma store, which was mentioned in the source material, apparently has practice texts and other resources for anyone wanting to explore further.
Good resources to know about. And maybe just a final thought to leave with our listeners.
Yeah.
Thinking about this deep dive, how might these ancient pathways, these traditions, continue to offer really profound, maybe even surprising insights into, well, the nature of our own consciousness and the potential we all have for flourishing, even right here, right now, in the modern age?
Definitely something to ponder.
It certainly is. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.